And now David will give us our scripture for today.
A reading from the book of Exodus. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods except me. You shall not make for yourself any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth below, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a zealous God. You shall not take a false oath in the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not declare him innocent who takes an oath in his name falsely. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor the sojourner who dwells in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the seas and all the things that are in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and sanctified it. Honor your father and your mother, for your days, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God gives you. You shall not kill, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is your neighbor's. And now Reverend McCauley will give us our sermon lesson.
Well, good morning, everyone. In today's scripture, we heard some familiar verses from Exodus chapter 20, which include the explanation of the Ten Commandments. Today, of course, is Mother's Day, and I thought it would be a good idea for us to have a quick review of the Ten Commandments, with particular emphasis on the commandment about honoring thy father, and especially thy mother. In preparing today's lesson, I was reminded of an interview that recently appeared on the Colbert Report. Charles Pope, a correspondent for SeattlePI.com, which is the Seattle Post-Intelligencer, summed it up thusly. Stephen Colbert asked Representative Lynn Westmoreland, a Republican from the great state of Georgia, if he was the do-nothingest member in the House because he had not introduced a bill in more than a year. Westmoreland defended himself by pointing out that he co-sponsored a bill that would allow the Ten Commandments to be hung in public buildings. Colbert arched an eyebrow and asked Westmoreland if he could recite the Ten Commandments. Colbert's interview included this exchange, which I took from VanityFair.com. Stephen Colbert says, "You co-sponsored a bill requiring the display of the Ten Commandments in the House of Representatives and in the Senate." Why was that important to you? Well, the Ten Commandments is not a bad thing for people to understand and to respect. I'm with you. What better place could you have something like that than in a judicial building or a courthouse? That's a good question. Can you think of any better building to put the Ten Commandments than a public building? No, I think if we were totally without them, we may lose a sense of our direction. Stephen Colbert then asks him, what are the Ten Commandments? What are all of them? Colbert nods. You want me to name them all? Yeah, please. Colbert holds up two fists, waiting for Westmoreland to count them off. Don't murder, don't lie, don't steal. I can't name them all. Congressman, thank you very much for taking time away from keeping the Sabbath day holy to talk to me. Well, at least he was able to come up with 3 of the Ten Commandments. If you haven't seen the actual interview, it's easy to locate using Google or the Comedy Central website. I wanted to share this with you today because, in all fairness, I don't think we emphasize the importance of the Ten Commandments in our lives today. If you were called upon, say, on national television, to name the Ten Commandments, could you? I'm simply suggesting that not only are we supposed to follow them, but we should also know what they are, understand what they say, and what they mean to us in the ordinary course of our lives. In class, for the past month or two, we've been talking about the importance of understanding our lessons in that we can't put something into practice if we don't understand it. That applies not only to Dr. Bassell's lessons, but to the Ten Commandments as well. Since today is Mother's Day, I want to spend some particular attention on the commandment, honor thy father and thy mother, particularly to and for our mothers everywhere. As I thought about all the things my mother did for me, the list was so long I wasn't sure I should try to mention everything I can recall. But here's some of the things my mom did for me when I was growing up. She packed lunches for me when I went to summer day camp, and again later when I had summer jobs in high school and college. Not only did she make sandwiches and pack the pickles separately so that the bread would not be soggy, but she also thought of additional treats to add each day to make my lunches interesting, such as fresh fruits, celery, carrots, raisins, moon pies, ho-hos, cheese or peanut butter, sandwich crackers, cookies, and the like. Because I was an extra tall guy, my mom spent a lot of time trying to find clothes that would fit me. It was especially difficult to find pants that were long enough, jackets that were large enough to fit properly, and so on. I know she spent many long hours trying to find clothes that fit well and looked good. When I was a child, there were no big and tall shops as there are today. Not only did she have to find clothes that would fit, she also managed to keep them clean, so I always had clean, pressed clothes to wear whenever I needed them. She managed to keep the house clean in spite of my attempts to mess everything up in sight. And I always had a clean towel whenever I took a shower, which was often when I was growing up. She kept her family well fed, did most of the grocery shopping, and she baked cookies and made wonderful dinners every night without complaining too much. She taught me to find my way around the kitchen without making too much of a mess so I could fend for myself when I had to. She helped me with my schoolwork. She helped me learn vocabulary in French, Spanish, and Latin, and drilled me in English vocabulary when I was preparing for the SATs. She participated in the carpool, driving me and my schoolmates to and from school for 8 years. She came to school to watch me perform whenever there was a play or a program. When the school asked her to volunteer her time for a bazaar or a bake sale, she was always there to participate. Before I was born, she was an elementary school teacher in Ohio, and her major was music. So she taught music, gave piano lessons, gave recitals from time to time. I recall that she took me to the school where she taught in Ohio on a family vacation once when I was about 5 or 6. And I met Mr. Holt, who was the principal of the school. He seemed to know my mother very well and said that she had been a very good teacher at that school. She also volunteered at the church, was president of the Women's Guild at the church for a time, was active in the local Mu Phi Epsilon music fraternity, president at one point, played organ at the church, helped direct the church choir, attended and hosted various study groups in her home on a regular basis, as well as managing to drive me wherever I needed to go, whenever I needed to be somewhere, which was pretty much all the time. She tried to teach me the difference between right and wrong, and she gave me love and affection whenever I needed it. My mother taught me unconditional love. Not that she explained it to me, but rather she demonstrated unconditional love in the way she took care of me and my father, loving both of us unconditionally.